What up, everybody? Welcome once again to the Grid and Grind Show, brought to you by the Off the Bench Podcast Network. It's Tuesday, and it's a good Tuesday. We are going to talk more Palm Beach Breakers action. We have Haley Booker, and we got Nate Cobb. They're going to be joining us. They're going to talk to us about their fitness journey and really talk about what the Breakers have to offer and why they signed and what the expectation for them personally and for the team is for the 2025 season. But before I bring Haley on, it's cold outside and I got to make sure that the heat down here in Tampa stays on. So I got to pay the bills. So in order to do that, I got to plug these sponsors in Off the Bench Podcast Network. Grid and Grind Shows brought to you by Chinook Seedery. Whether you're on the field or in the boardroom signing deals, Chinook helps you get the job done. 8 flavors, mild to wild. Go to your local convenience store. Go to your local grocery store. Go to your local gas station. Go to the snack aisle. Don't tell me y'all don't know where the snack aisle is. I've been saying it. Y'all living a lie if y'all don't know where the snack aisle is. Go pick up the best bag of seeds that you can find. Get the smokehouse barbecue. Get the cinnamon toast. Mix a little bit of both of those together. And I'm telling you right now, you'll thank me later. Memphis City Designs. Get your brands, gear, and logos on everything from shoes to underoos. Get your in off the bench gear while supplies last. I got that blue representing that Tigers. Relief Chiropractic. Dr. Vic Robinson. That's the only name that you need to know when it comes to chiropractic care. He is rejuvenating people. He's got magic hands. He is adding years to people's lives. What he does is unbelievable. Free consultation. After this free consultation, he's going to find needs. He's going to assess those needs, and he's going to put together a prescriptive, tailored, customized plan that's just for you. You're not getting this out-of-the-box Mickey Mouse, jabroni workout that he's going to put you through. He's going to do something that's going to assess your specific needs. So go see him and tell him DB from In Off the Bench sent you. And finally, Old Dominick Distillery. Experience 150 years of tradition in the heart of downtown Memphis. From bourbon to vodka, whiskey to gin, Old Dominick's got you covered. Stop in today for a tour or just to pick up your favorite bottle. And with that, it's time to welcome on to the show our guest, one of our 2 guests, Haley Booker. Haley, what up? What up?
Hey, how's it going?
I am good. So the good news is you're on time. Actually, you were early. And as Drake would say, better late than never, but never late is better. Nate.
He'll be here.
I kid. Nate, hit me up yesterday and was like, hey man, like I'm going to be on, but I'm going to be towards the back end. So I got, class and all those things. And I get it, man. That things happen and life.
Yeah, looks like you're stuck with me for this first part.
Hey, he's missing out. We're not stuck with these. He's missing out. But with that, I want to spend some time kind of talking a little bit about your fitness journey and just, the breakers and grid and all that good stuff. But as any good podcast host would do, I do a little bit of research. I do a little digging, and it actually doesn't take a lot of digging on your Instagram, profile.
Yeah.
One of the first things it says is dog, CrossFit, coffee, sourdough.
Yep.
All right. So I want to start there.
Yeah, let's dissect that.
You're a dog person.
Yeah.
What kind of dog do you have if you're a dog?
I've got 2. So I've got a Shepherd mix and a Malamute mix.
I mean, big dogs. I mean,
yeah. Well, so the Shepherd mix is about 75 pounds, and the Malamute mix is only 35, 40 pounds. He's mixed with the healer, so he's a little bit smaller.
Oh, I know about healers. I got 2 little girls, and we watch Bluey, so we know all about healers.
Yep.
Boys, girls, what's the names?
Yeah, they're both boys. So the Shepherd mix is Remy, and I got him when he was 4 weeks old when I was a senior in college. And then Buzz is the Malamute healer mix, and I believe he's about 5. I got him as he's been a little bit older, so don't know his exact age there.
So let me tell you a tragic story.
Oh, no.
It has nothing to do with sadness of dogs.
Okay.
This is just me personally. So we rescued a golden retriever.
Yeah.
And I I'm surrounded. I'm a girl dad. I have two girls, a 19-month-old and a 7-year-old, and it's my wife and my 2 girls, and, we get a dog, and guess what? I couldn't even get a boy dog.
Oh, no. You had to get a
So
girl one.
we do. Well, in the rescue world, you don't really get the
The choice.
choice.
Yeah.
So when the opportunity comes and the right fit happens, and she was the right fit for us. And so
Yeah.
once again, I struck out, but it's all good. She's a great dog. She's a great fit for us, and I love rescues. This is the second rescue dog that we've had, and
Yeah.
we had an Australian Kelpie that was a rescue. She was a herding dog as well, but
Yeah.
she was a little bit, quirky. You
Yeah.
find her on the streets. She was hardened. She was like
For the
true,
yeah.
true rescue. Ellie, my golden retriever, she had a host family and probably lived a little bit of rough stuff in the beginning, but
Yeah.
she got a little bit better. But I
No.
love dogs.
They're the
Yeah, it's hard for me. Like I'll be totally frank with you. If someone told me they hated dogs, I wouldn't even want to be friends with that person.
Yeah, I think that's a very big indicator of what type of person you are. And if
And,
my dog
and
doesn't like you, that's another big thing. It's because I would trust both of them with my life. And if they're getting a weird vibe from you, there's something I'm not seeing. And I feel like I need to pay attention to that.
yeah, dogs have a very strange intuition. Like they know before things go down, like
Yeah, they do.
something's about to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, even like I guess cat people, like people that don't necessarily not like dogs, they just prefer cats.
Yeah.
Like even like on other shows that I host on our podcast network, my best friend Jim, he has dogs and cats, and he
Okay.
is 100% a cat person. Like
Okay.
I think it's because the cats like him better than the dogs, and so
Okay.
he holds this grudge against the dogs. But
Yeah.
even him, I'm like, how are we
What's going on
friends?
here?
Yeah, how are we friends, really?
Yeah.
Um, but obviously, the next thing is coffee. You big coffee fan, huh?
Yeah, I drink at least 1 cup a day, and I try to keep it to 1 just because you start to drink more than your sleep, as I have my cup here as well. Cheers. Um,
Cheers.
it impacts sleep, if you're drinking too many cups or too late in the day. So definitely enjoy a good cup of coffee, but try to keep it, in the reign of like what's actually manageable and good for my body.
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. I feel, and I could be totally off base. I feel like I could drink coffee any time of the day and it
Yeah.
has zero effect on sleep.
Yeah,
I am
that's
so
probably not a
tired.
good sign.
No, I am so tired where I will go to sleep. Like I
Yeah.
could drink a cup of coffee and be like, all right, see y'all later. I'm hitting the hay.
So don't quote me on this, but I believe there's some kind of science of like coffee naps to where if you drink like a cup of coffee and then take a 15-minute nap, it's actually good for you. I'll have to like try to see if I can find
Oh,
where I read
don't tell me that.
that.
Um,
I don't know. Again, don't quote me on it, but I believe there's some kind of science behind that I'll have to find and send to you if I can see where I read it.
Yeah, please do, because I
Yeah.
will I will be throwing that in everybody's face, and I'll just be drinking and napping all
Yeah.
day. I'll have my most productive nights.
Yeah.
It'll just be crazy. Um, how how do you take your coffee? You put a bunch of stuff in it?
No, I'll either put like a little bit of like the Chobani creamer. Like I try to keep, if I'm going to use creamer, pretty simple. It's got like
Yeah.
minimal ingredients, or I'll do just a little bit of almond milk. But other than that, it's normally just black coffee. If I'm feeling really crazy, I might do some kind of like cold, like the pumpkin cream cold brew around the fall. I do love one of those. I won't lie there. Do love one of those every now and then, but yeah, for the most part, just try to keep it as simple as possible.
I like my nice, warm cup of coffee, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna die on this hill, and I'm gonna tell you what hill that is.
yeah.
Starbucks has the best cold brew ever made.
So their
Ever.
cold brew is good, but their regular coffee is not.
No, I'm not a fan. I feel like it's very burnt. It's very
Yeah,
scorched.
it's
But their
burnt their
cold
water.
brew, I don't know what they did or how they do it. I even looked into figuring out how to buy, like, the keg because,
Yeah,
like, they tap the cold brew, like and they won't even sell it. They
really.
won't to no one. And I
And I
was like,
feel
"Man,
like
it's crazy."
it's just their regular coffee that they sell like in grocery stores, right? That's not like their cold brew.
It's not.
Okay.
It's the plastic jug. I think that's what it
Yeah.
is. When something's packaged, especially coffee, when taste is a factor, anything when it's wrapped in plastic for whatever reason, it has this weird
Taste.
taste.
Yeah, it's not
And
fresh. Like, you don't know when that was brewed or how long that's been sitting there,
right.
you know?
And I understand. I know what people out there are gonna say to that comment. Well, when you go to Starbucks, they put it in a plastic cup.
Yeah,
Yes, but I don't let it sit for days on end.
right, and
So
it's more fresh too, like, I don't know if you've ever gone and they are, like, out of cold brew, like, they're making it maybe if someone works at Starbucks, they can tap in and let us know, but they make it more often than they
yeah.
would for, like, the plastic containers in the store.
Yeah, I don't know who the magic man is behind the science of how many batches they need for a day, but there have
Yeah,
been times where early on, like, they ran out just because they're
yeah.
trying to figure it out, but
Yeah, like at 9
I
AM too. It was never like
yeah,
later in the day, it was like morning rush.
yeah, that's crazy. So,
Yeah,
somebody messed up. I mean, I bet it was a brewing process overnight and somebody missed one of the steps and they were like,
yep,
"Oh, that's not
and then
good."
they were out.
Yep. So, all right, last thing before we get
Yep,
into fitness, all right?
yeah,
And this kinda goes with fitness. It's could be health, it could not be, but there is
yeah,
a hobby, it seems
yes,
like that you enjoy,
yeah.
and that's bread making,
Oh,
sourdough.
yes, absolutely. So,
Y
I don't know if you've seen, like, on Instagram Reels and TikTok, there's a rabbit hole that you can go down when it comes to, like, sourdough and, like, what you can make with it, and we
l
got a
let me
starter. Go for
let
it.
me tell you,
Yeah,
when COVID was here,
yep,
there was all these amateur bread makers, like,
yeah,
all of them out there making all kinds of sourdoughs and have they talking the lingo
yep. I'm down
all
that rabbit hole. I'm one of them.
but
I have
I've seen what you've produced, like, you
yeah.
can actually make bread, like
Oh, it's so much fun. I really love cooking and baking, and like from a really young age, like I started watching the Food Network. Funny enough, before my dad and I like to joke, before cooking shows were cool, we used to have like little cooking shows in like our kitchen at home for my brothers and sisters, and like would make like the sound effects and like flip things and then present the dish to them. So I really enjoy like cooking and baking in general. Like it's something that I feel like it's a creative outlet for me. And then when I found sourdough, that kind of took it to a whole nother degree. I just think there's so many interesting things about it, and that like I don't. I'm not a mom, but I identify as like a crunchy human, I guess. Looking at like bread in the store versus like bread you can make at home, how many ingredients are different? Like I feel like we live in this space where that's kind of starting to be questioned. And there's also like the taste of homemade bread is just so much better than anything you'd buy in the store. So, for a lot of reasons, I just think I enjoy it so much.
let me tell you, I
Yeah.
don't know where are you at right now?
In
Colorado?
Colorado.
Alright, I don't know in Colorado if you've heard of this store called it's a grocery store chain called Publix.
Oh, so I used to live in Georgia, and Publix was like
Okay.
the
So
best.
they have a good bakery and they
Yeah,
make sourdough and my wife is a huge fan of sourdough and we
yeah,
get like 2 loaves a week and I would say they've patented a pretty perfect system.
yeah.
But what I hear you saying is it's possible that making this at home, it tastes better because it's
I
the
so
ingredients are better?
Potentially, but I also think there's a part of like, hey, I'm proud I did this. I made this thing and like I'm enjoying it. People I love are enjoying it. And so I think that just kind of makes the experience of it a little bit better. And maybe I just think that way and other people don't. But I like one of my favorite things when I give gifts to people, like I give them homemade bread because like it's one of the best things. And I've received good feedback, but yeah, I just think like the whole process of it, it's not just like, hey, there's this loaf of bread. It's like there's so many things that went into this. And like I made this happen for this person or for us, and like we get to enjoy it now.
What it all right.
Yeah.
The best loaf of sourdough you've ever made, start to finish.
Yeah.
Like, how long is that?
So probably about 2 days. And I'd say the best loaf I've ever made has been a pesto sourdough loaf. So it's like sourdough bread with pesto in it, and we home make the pesto. And it's just, you cannot replicate it. Have never tasted anything like it. And it's one of my absolute favorite things.
All right. So is this one of the things where you can make, so you make pesto sourdough
Yep.
and then you say it's the best one you've ever made and then you make it again.
Yeah.
Is it as good, or
Oh,
is there
absolutely.
some where you're like, it's always good, or is there somewhere, like I did a B minus job on this one?
So when it's funny because when the weather changes, that kind of impacts your starter. I don't want to get like too nerdy, but like, and especially being at altitude here in Colorado, there was a really big learning curve with like, hey, how do I even like bake bread? How do I deal with my sourdough starter? There's a ton. I would like, when I say down the rabbit hole, like in a ton of like Facebook groups, like scrolling on Instagram, reading blog articles, like just learning how to do it right. So there have been like some loaves, it's like, hey, this didn't turn out because like it randomly dropped to negative something degrees this weekend, and my starter was just like, nah, we're not here for it, we're not going to do what we need to do to become bread. So yeah.
Do you like people who have like gardens, they like talk to their fruits and their vegetables and their plants? Do you talk to your
I do not.
dough?
It does have a name. So
Oh,
our starter's name is Bread Pit. And there's
that is great.
yeah, so I've seen ones that are named like Jolene, and like just bread themed, like names of famous people or places and things like that.
Brad Pitt is phenomenal,
It's a good
phenomenal.
one.
I think we could talk about bread for
I
an hour. We
seriously
could have
could.
a whole episode on bread.
Yeah, we'll
But
save that for
obviously,
another day.
yeah, another day. But we gotta get into fitness. Okay,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
for you, um, pretty fitness oriented, very into working out,
Yeah.
nutrition, the whole nine, CrossFit, grid now. But is being in the weight room or being in the gym and fitness, was it something that you grew up doing or like through sport, or was this something that you like later in life you found this passion that you didn't know that you had?
Yeah, so I feel very fortunate to have been put into a lot of different sports when I was younger. My dad was a football and baseball coach. My mom was a very active, like track runner throughout high school, and moving on. Like I've always grown up in that atmosphere, and so I did everything from volleyball to basketball to soccer to track and field to gymnastics to dance class, and then my I want to say my sophomore year of high school, I got put into like an Olympic weightlifting class. It was like the honors PE class or like the advanced PE class because my dad was also a PE teacher at our high school. So I was like always on my best behavior and trying to do everything I could to be a good student and then also like stay active. But that's kind of like the first exposure I had to like being in the gym. In high school, I gravitated a lot more towards competitive cheerleading. So that's like where a lot of my background is. And through that and going to college, I learned that, being in the gym can help me with my sport. It can help me do my flips better. It can help me lift people better. It can help me have better stability if I'm up in the air. And so I kind of continued that. It was just something like, hey, this is just what you do to like perform better at your sport. It's something that you can benefit from, and it's good for you too. So that's kind of where it started in terms of like being active and finding fitness. And so once I feel like I might be jumping ahead here, but once I graduated from college and left the sport of cheerleading, I was missing. I've always been competitive. I think growing up in a big family, always being involved in sports, I was like, I need something else. What else can I
Yeah.
do? And so I did a year of bodybuilding. I did NPC fitness, and that was not my favorite in terms of like the dieting that had to happen. And
There wasn't no sourdough there.
yeah, no sourdough bread there, very little carbs. And so I was just like, this isn't sustainable for me. Like, I would really like to find something that improves my overall quality of life and that I can kind of like feel that team community sense. And so about 3 years ago, I walked into a CrossFit gym and that scratched that itch big time.
Did you know about CrossFit and you're like, it's on my radar to try, or were you just like, I've got to do something different, and so you just went in there one day and was like, oh, this is what it is. Okay.
Yeah, so I was doing kind of like bodybuilding style workouts because that's really what I knew prior to going to a CrossFit gym. But I had someone ask, like, hey, why don't you try CrossFit? And it's like, oh, I have heard about it. But it's like, oh, that's that crazy thing that everybody does. Like, I never saw myself as someone who would do that. And then I ate my words
Yeah.
because like, I did the first workout and I was like, cool, like, this hurts. I like it a lot. Like, this is going to help me grow. And I think, like, even more so from a mental perspective, like when I found CrossFit, I was in a place where I felt like I was kind of mentally weak or a little bit lost, and like I was really able to find myself, find my strength, and like build who I wanted to be with the help of CrossFit.
Yeah, everybody has that story about, when they first started
Yeah,
CrossFit, and I think it was handstand push-ups for me. I was like, went in there and I kicked up and I was like, I did like two strict handstand push-ups, and then I didn't know how to do kipping ones.
yeah,
I couldn't muscle fatigue had set in and I couldn't do any more. And I was just like very humbled.
yeah,
And much like you, like I was, in there doing back and buys, chest and tries,
yeah.
shoulders and
Leg
legs, and like,
day.
having like this bro session, and I considered myself strong, but I didn't
Yeah,
really know what true strength was
right.
until you get in front of a bar and you got to deadlift it
Yeah,
or take it from the ground and put it overhead. But just like anybody, you get in there, you get humbled, and you fall in love with it, and you get beat up, and you're like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to go back and do this
right.
again."
Yeah.
Um, so, um, being in Colorado, where'd you
Yeah.
go to school? Where'd you go to college?
So I went to school in the St. Louis area at Lindenwood
Oh,
University. Was previously a Division II school when I went there,
okay.
but they're
Yep.
moving to Division I. I think um, I don't know if that happened this past year or the year before, but they're transitioning to that.
Yeah. I'm from Memphis, so
Okay.
big fan of the St. Louis area, big
Yeah.
Cardinals fan as well.
Yep.
So, you start training. Are you back in Colorado once you start doing CrossFit, or are you still in
No.
St. Louis?
So after at rewind, some point in my life, I moved to Georgia. So prior to living in Colorado, I lived in Georgia for about 4 years. And I found Georgia through a cheerleading coach job. I dabbled in that for a year, and
Mhm.
that kind of like helped me build my roots there. And so I found a CrossFit gym there. It was 360 Iron CrossFit, and like the people there were just so welcoming, so wonderful. And that's the gym that like I really found like this love for CrossFit. And I was there for about a year and a half. And I've almost been here in Colorado for 2 years. So it started there, but now I'm here.
Hey, it's what is it like training in Georgia and then going back to Colorado in altitude? Is it so there a lot of people make a huge like fuss about
Yeah.
altitude and training, but is it really that big of a transition?
So when I first moved here, yes, I felt like the most unfit version of myself when I moved here officially. I used to come here to visit prior to moving, and I didn't see it to be that bad. But if I would go back to Georgia for extended periods of time and then come here, I could kind of feel it. So I think timing of that is everything, and like how long you're going to be here and what you're doing. I don't know if you've ever heard of like the Manitou Incline, but if you're going to come do that, like you're going to absolutely feel altitude,
Yeah.
and sometimes with some cardio things too. But I think it all depends on like the exposure that you've had or how long you were in that other place or how long you've been here.
Now, so now that you're in grid, you're going to eventually go from altitude to, I'm assuming, non-altitude.
Yeah.
Is that like a cheat code? Like when you're in altitude and then you go to non-altitude, climates, and you're like, I'm kicking ass. Everybody's tired and I got a little bit extra in the tank here.
I have felt that. So like last
Man.
Christmas we went to Minnesota, and granted there's I think like a little bit of altitude, but it's not as much as what we are here. And I felt like my cardio game was so much better. We do have like our team camp coming up, so I'm eager to see like how I feel like going down to Florida for that in terms of like my conditioning. But I think it can vary too. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's I've always wondered that because you see these guys, and like I always think of them like as like really like in it, like
Yeah,
deep in it, like athletes with these VO2 masks on, and they're like trying to like mimic altitude, and they're like on rowers going to town or on,
yeah,
echo bikes, and it's just crazy.
yeah.
Um, but you're slowly starting to mention, there's combines and grid and
Yep.
the camp. So talk to me, how does Haley Booker in Colorado, how do you first learn about grid? Let's start
Yeah.
there.
So that actually started when I was in Georgia. I had there was a video that popped up on my Instagram Reels, and it was someone doing burpee back tucks. And I was like, dang, that's what I used to do for conditioning, like back in cheerleading. Like I do that for fun now, like burpee box jumps, all that stuff. Like what crazy stuff can I do? And like making sure I can still flip like every year I get older.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, like this is an account for something. Like, let's take a look at this. And so I kind of started to see like, hey, this is grid. And at the time it was Florida Grid League. So I was like, oh, they're in Florida. Like there's no chance kind of for me to do that. It's a cool thing, but like I'll just be a spectator. I'll kind of follow it from
Yeah.
afar on Instagram. And then I moved to Colorado, and funny enough, it became United Grid League, and they started to have an Atlanta team. And I was like, really cool. So I guess like the stars are just not aligning. Like I'm now not located anywhere. Maybe they'll grow to Colorado. Like it could be something. And then I saw I have a couple of folks that I know that are on grid teams, but the teams that they're on, they're not located. And I was like, wait a darn minute, like they don't live there. So like maybe this
Yep.
is a possibility for me. And so I started asking around and kind of seeing like, hey, what does that look like? And then I learned about remote training. And so kind of towards mid to end of last year, I was like, next year I'm going to do grid. Like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm going to start putting myself out there, and I'm going to be on a grid team. And so that's kind of how I heard about it, and like where that came from, and how the goal to be here started.
What I've the misconception, and maybe it's not, maybe it's just me, but I learned when I started covering this, a year ago, is that there are 30% of the athletes in grid, which may not seem like a lot, but when you actually break down the numbers, 30% do not live the in a close proximity to where their team is located, meaning like they're not even in the same state.
Right. And I didn't know that.
And it's one of those things where there's two things that I find, just super fascinating and unique, and just makes grid one of a kind, is this aspect where, it's one thing to be on a professional team, and not live in the area, but you're there every day for practice.
Yeah.
It's another, which is what makes grid special, is you don't have to live there. You can
Yeah.
practice remote. You can be a part of the team. All we ask is that you send your real version on game day.
Absolutely.
Let's go. And once that is an opportunity, like it really expands like the number of athletes that can get involved in the sport.
Yeah. And
Um,
I wish there was like a lot more information about that out there, which like this
I'm
platform,
trying. I'm
yeah, this
trying.
platform is a great way for that, because if Haley 2 years ago or even 3 years ago would have known about this, I love team sports. And that was one of the biggest things. I miss like team camaraderie so much. And you get that in a CrossFit community. But I think when you are competing together for a team in that setting, there's just something really special about that. And so being able to show like, hey, this exists, like you don't have to live in these places. It's growing. It's something super exciting. Um, yeah, I just very interested. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, we're doing this.
Yeah. So you see it, you understand it. You're like, oh man, burpee back tucks. I got that all day.
Yeah.
Backflip, back handspring. I got
Yep.
that. Not a problem. Aerials probably can do those too. But how do you have the opportunity to get on the Palm Beach team? How does that come to fruition? It's one thing to
Yeah.
know about the sport and go, I think I can do that. I want to do that. Well, there's this something happens and you are now on a team. So what happened for you to hook up with Matt and the Breakers and then actually have the opportunity to sign with the Breakers?
Yeah. I like to joke that Instagram is this really powerful tool because I met like my boyfriend through it, and I also found grid through it, and I made connections, and kind of because of Instagram, like I I think being able to like post, I was like, let me just start taking videos of myself doing grid related things and start posting them, and lo and behold, I knew Matt Evans before he was working with the Breakers. I don't know if that's been shared, but
Yeah.
he's working with Matt Hornaday this year. And I know him previously through a mutual friend. And I had posted a video, and he's like, have you ever thought about playing grid? And I was like, yeah, actually this year I'm going to. And he was like, oh, you're already with a team. Like, and I was like, no, but like, it's just a goal of mine. I'm going to be, this is something I really want to do. And he's like, well, how would you want to have a conversation with me? I'm helping out with this team. Let's set up a time to chat. And I was like, yeah, sounds great. So that kind of started the conversation of like, hey, here are the Breakers. This is what we're about this year. This is what's going on, and like we're interested. Like let's talk.
Yeah, it's man, what a guy, Matt.
He is.
He go Matt Evans probably goes to Matt Hornaday. He's like, "Hey, dude, I got somebody. I
Probably.
got somebody."
We were
And
on the
like,
phone, I think, like the next day, or
oh,
even the same day. Like it was very fast.
when it comes to body weight specialists that can do like the back tuck or just, aerials or even like anything on the rings, gymnastics relate, like it's like a hot commodity. Like
Yeah,
there's a small percentage of people. I mean, we can go get a bunch of strength people and like
yeah,
they may or may not be super strong, like, but they can move a barbell and they can move the weight.
yeah,
But when it comes to moving your body, like it's just the percentage of people is small.
yeah.
And but you seem to fit the mold. So okay, you have a conversation the next day. What do they talk about? Do they have to sell you on this? Because it seems like you are wanting to do this. So to me, it's like, well, they don't have to pitch you very hard. They just gotta give you the opportunity.
Yeah. So I was actually talking with a couple of different coaches, like in the time frame,
Oh,
and
okay,
so
okay.
it was one of those things of like I'm really excited that I have like these choices and this opportunity to do something, but like I want to pick the team that's going to be the best fit. Like I want to pick the coach that it's like I align with the most in terms of like their goals, what they're trying to build, and who they are. Because I think like, it's great to win, but like if everyone has a terrible attitude and, isn't there for the right reasons or doesn't mesh, you probably aren't gonna win. Like you're probably not gonna have like a cohesive season as a team because you can't function for a variety of different reasons
Right.
with attitudes and egos and different stuff. And so I was talking through with each of these coaches and people of like, one, how did they reach out? Were they trying to connect with me personally? Like, do they want to know who I am as a person? Am I just a number to them? I think like the personal relationship and that aspect of like what Matt did for me was really what like drew me to them and like their goals and their energy for this season. Um, I just felt very excited all the time while talking to them. And it's really hard to make someone like be excited. Like you can tell they are all in for
Yeah.
this season. And I want to be all in and I want a team that's all in. And I just felt that alignment there.
Yeah, every conversation I haven't talked to I've only talked to Matt Hornaday.
Yeah.
So but when I talked to
You're in for
him,
a treat when you talk to Matt Evans.
well, On Thursday, I got both
Yeah,
of them together coming
that
on.
was fun.
So speaking of together,
Yeah,
Nate has joined us. He's
heck
here. He's
yeah.
out of class. Let me bring him in. Nate, what's up, dude?
What's up?
Hey,
Sorry I'm
man.
late.
It's all good, bro. We've been talking about dogs, coffee, bread.
Nice.
I mean, really,
The
we've just
essentials.
yeah,
All good things.
we've actually just kind of scratched the surface of getting into, Haley's story on how she got, with the Breakers. So
hmm
while you're here, I'll kind of get the same thing. So for you, fitness, like where do you find fitness? Is it something you've always done, or is this something where you walk into a CrossFit gym and you're like, oh, I like this, or you walk into a weightlifting team and you're like, I like snatch, I like clean and jerk. So where does fitness, start for you?
Well, I mean, I've always grown up playing sports, so I mean, fitness has always been just there. I've always had a competitive nature, and I kind of have a similar story to a lot of people in this space. I played sports growing up. I really enjoyed it, but I enjoyed the training and the uh, like lifting weights and doing all that stuff more than actually playing the sport.
Yeah.
So, I kind of gravitated towards, CrossFit or Olympic weightlifting just naturally um, out of high school when I was done playing sports. So now I just kind of obsess over it, and that's really all I do now. So yeah, that's kind of
Don't we all?
the
It's
story.
I tell people, I mean, it's a good thing. Like I'm, obsessed and kind of addicted to like things like the gym and CrossFit and grid, because if these were negative vices, like I don't even know if I'd be
Mhm.
sitting here with you guys, like, because it would just
Yeah,
be chaos. My world would just be chaos.
for sure.
But obviously you find fitness through sport. You do it all the time. How do you find out about grid? Do you know about grid, or was this something that just recently came about?
It's very recent. I've known about grid for about a year, but I had no idea what it actually was about until a friend, like I go to school in Auburn. There was a friend that had already graduated, a mutual friend of this person that was in grid. They came and visited. They told me that they were on a team, and we worked out together a little bit, and they saw what I could do, and they were like, you'd be good at this thing. Why don't you come try it out? So then I looked into it, YouTube videos, did some research, and I was like, that actually looks pretty fun, because it's just extreme movements of everything that I like to do, and I'd say I'm pretty extreme guy myself. So I was like, I'll give it a try, and then I went to the combine for the breakers, and I had a really really good time. So I'm excited to see what happens.
So this was in Alabama, the recent
Yeah.
combine that they had. All right.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
you
At
got to
Muscle
meet.
Shoals.
Okay, so you got to meet Andrew and Billy and
Oh
Josh
yeah.
and Shay. So I mean,
Mhm.
Josh and Shay will shoot you straight. Josh was
Oh
all
yeah.
star this year. Shay um, had no intention. When I talked to her, she was like, "I have no intention of playing. I was just there," and I was like, "I'll
Mhm.
be a reserve," and she ended up being like a key contributor on the team. Um,
Yeah,
but
they're beasts, dude. They're
oh yeah,
animals.
oh for sure. It's crazy, people, that like Haley had some friends and you had some friends that did grid or were in the sphere of grid, and they're like, "Hey, I'm gonna take these people that are love to work out. I'm gonna dangle this grid carrot in front of them. Watch this." It's
Yeah.
almost like this trick. They're like, "Hey, watch what happens here." And
Yep.
Haley, research is like, I don't know if you know this, but Haley told me she researched and was like, "I'm doing this." And like, so
Yeah.
like when Matt approached her, it was like an easy like yes. But for
Mhm.
you, you go to the combine. What were your expectations at this combine? Were you like, oh, I know that they're gonna give me an opportunity to be on the team, or were you like, oh man, I don't know what to expect. I may or may not have a shot at this.
Yeah, I had no idea what to expect because I'm still, like I said, I'm still super new to grid, and to be honest, I still kind of don't know what I'm getting myself into. But sadly, when I went to the combine, I had a little bit of an ankle injury, so I told that, up in front, that I might not be able to do everything. So that was kind of a bummer that like I couldn't show out like I wanted to, because I love throwing around heavy barbells, and I couldn't do like super super heavy. But I was still able to show off some things. And I'm going as a utility player, so a lot of the gymnastic stuff I could still do. But the heavy barbells I couldn't show out. So I did what I could, and I tried my best with what I had, and I was just praying that they were gonna allow me to be on the team because it was super fun. I enjoyed meeting all the people. Sadly, I didn't see Haley there. She wasn't there yet, so this is our first time meeting, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I was bummed. I tried to make it down there, but
Yeah.
it was, I think I had started talking to Matt, and Matt, it was maybe like a week before the combine. I was like, I'm going to see if I can try, but the travel plans
Yeah.
just didn't work out from here to Alabama. So
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, I'm sure that they will be more than happy for you to sit out of the Alabama combine as long as you're there at these matches.
yep, that's
So,
the
yeah.
plan.
So how does this work? Haley, I'll start with you. All right.
Yeah.
So you go, all right, I like everything about the breakers. Do they just go, hey, here's the paperwork, sign, or do they like how is it presented to you? Or they go, you have like we want you, like you have to, or do you call them and you go, hey, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this.
Yeah, so I think there was a period of time where we were kind of going back and forth. Like I said, I talked to a couple other coaches, and I was like, I just really want to make an educated decision. I like to think through things pretty analytically and identify where I'm going to be the best fit. And in that time, they were asking for videos of things, and so I was sending out videos of the different tricks and different races and things that I could do. And so it came down to a final conversation of like, hey, after this weekend, like I'm going to have my decision made. Like I feel like I'm best under pressure. And so I was like, I'm giving myself this timeline. And by this day, like I'm setting up a call, going to talk to the coaches that I have communicated with. And I'll have the decision. And Matt was like, cool, here's the LOI. We'll talk about it on Sunday. And so sent that over. And funny enough, I got an LOI for another team the same day that I got the one from Matt. And so I was like, okay. So I really do have a decision.
I don't want to pry.
Yeah.
I really want to know. And you can tell me if you don't, if you want to. What was the other team?
The other team was the Atlanta Wild. So I was talking with Dan, and they're also great as well. I had the chance to talk to all of their leadership, and it was just one of those things of like, I felt like I aligned a little bit more with Matt's energy and just how we were communicating too. I just felt like you can't read when something feels right, like it is, those gut feelings like do mean things. And as analytical as I want to be, I think that still has power. And so I had the 2 LOIs, and it was one of those things of I got on the phone with Matt. We were talking. I was like, let's do this. And then after
that is pun intended wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
I mean, everyone throughout grid in this process, I will say, has been really great. And Matt had great things to say about the Wild, and the Wild had great things to say with Matt. There's no like bad blood from what I have noticed from talking to different coaches.
What I will say, Nate, I don't know if you know this because you still are learning a lot about grid, but the Wild are the defending champs.
I do know that. When I did my research, I went back and watched the championship, so I know they won.
Haley said, "Not today."
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things of like, yes, you can win in the previous year, but like, what does that mean for this next year? Like, do you have all your players returning? Like, just because you win one year doesn't mean you'll win the next. And that's not any shade to anybody, but that's kind of like what I was thinking as well.
If you go back and trace the history, or even just talk to people, it is like it's happened or you've
Yeah.
had back-to-back but it is very hard to do. And
Yeah.
a lot of it is because the regular season is so short. Like you have to you have to come out of the gate hot. You got to stay hot, and you've got to put it all together. When it comes playoff time. Nate, what about you, man? Haley gets the LOI, and she's fired up. She said, it's just like it feels right. But for
Mhm.
you, were you presented that? Was there conversations on what they thought you could or couldn't do, or they immediately were like, oh man, like ankle injury or not, man, you can come out here with one good ankle and we got you.
I think that's honestly how it went, to be honest. When I first got there and I did, a couple of gymnastic stuff, and I felt like I did pretty good at it. And they had told me they had already done some research on me. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool, because I post some of my stuff online and like, on Instagram and stuff. So, I was kind of bummed. Like I said, I wasn't able to show out like I wanted to. And, if they wanted me, then they did. So we ended up going out to eat that night. And while I was eating my chips and salsa at a Mexican restaurant, I get the email from Matt, and there's my LOI. So I was like, okay, I'm in. I was in right on the
Fired up.
spot.
Let's
Yep.
go. Like, I
Yeah, I
mean,
was ready.
let me tell you something. There would be no better day than to be eating some chips and guac and get your
Right.
LOI. Like that is like you couldn't even script that any better. Like that's
Yeah.
a perfect day. A very
Yep.
perfect day. All right, so we
I
got to get
signed it right there on the spot.
nice. All
Yeah.
right, so we got to get into it. Obviously, once you sign with the Breakers, you probably do some research if you hadn't done so already, and you look, okay, how did they do the season prior? All right, 2024, not the best season for the Breakers, but there's a lot of things that I think, when you talk to Matt, like you may not see it from unless you're in it. They had a regular season start that wasn't great, but they were able to start piecing things together and they looked really good at the end of the season. And a lot of momentum and a lot of they're inspired to like get this thing going. They're doing an Alabama combine. And that was something that he told when I talked to Josh Newell about a month ago or longer than that. It was we're planning on doing an Alabama combine, which is something that other teams don't do. They've never done like a combine out of the state. And so they're, something like that is out of the box. It's new, it's fresh. And I believe it's going to be something that's replicated. So, having that and then just really having a different direction and perspective for the team. And when I talked to Matt, he was like, things are going to be a little bit different. Like I'm going to do this and do that. And I'm interested to see from the first time I talked to Matt Hornaday to on Thursday when I talked to him, how many of those things that we talked about him doing differently have come to fruition? Because it seems like a lot. But giving what you knew about the team, what do you think? Nate, I'll start with you. What do you bring to the team for 2025? What's the one thing where you're like, this is the one thing that I know that I can contribute where it's going to make a difference and make us better?
I think I kind of have like a under the radar kind of feel, because I don't think anybody knows me in grid, but I think I can throw around a heavy barbell just as good as any of the top weightlifters in the sport. But I can also throw my body weight around just as good as all the body weight specialists. So um, I think people don't know I'm coming, and I'm excited to show it off, and people are going to be like, where did this kid come from? So I
It's
think that's what I bring.
it's the beauty of the sport. And I was telling Haley this is that with the ability to remote practice and be a part of a team and not even live near the team, like it has expanded the amount of people that can be involved and the amount of eyes that see it. And eventually, like it's just going to spread. And you're going to get people on a year to year basis now, like yourself, who didn't necessarily, it wasn't on their radar, but all of a sudden now, oh shoot, let me try this. And yeah, like you're gonna come out of nowhere and nobody's gonna know who you are until I post this today, and I'm like, this dude is hot. Y'all get ready.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Yeah, I mean, you a lot of grid, I think, a lot of rookies that do well in grid, they come under the radar and people aren't really sure, who they were prior to. But also there's like this level of, you're so like you're naive kind of to like the pressure that, a race entails. And you just kind of go out there and you treat it as, oh, this is just a training session that I do every time. I'm just doing it a little bit faster or whatever the case is. And so it kind of takes the pressure off of you in the beginning. But Haley, what about you? What are you bringing to the Breakers to make them better for the 2025 season?
Yeah, I think not necessarily, there's things like the backflips and the back handsprings and the more specialized skills that we mentioned. But in terms of attitude, I think that's been really big. Growing up in a household of a coach, being a coach, having the chance to be a leader in the working world, I think like working with people and understanding people and how to build like a very collaborative and healthy team environment is something that I plan to really contribute to the Breakers. Like I know that's part of the vision this year is to building a very strong, like tight-knit team. And so I think just my energy and positivity to help do that is going to also bring us to that next level.
Look, I looked on social media and I saw this, and this I have to share this because this is what it's all about. When you talk about energy, like this is the energy. This 225. Clean and a front squat. Look at this. Look at that. I mean,
I was super pumped. So that was this time last year. That was actually a PR at the time. And the week before that, I tried to clean 225 like so many times, and I kept falling underneath it, falling underneath it, and falling underneath it. And funny enough, that video didn't include I tried it once, and it was a timed frame thing, and I was like, I'm gonna do it again. I got under the bar the first try, and then it pushed me back. I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna get this. And front squat wise, I was like, if I can clean it, I'm gonna front squat it all day. And so I was so amped.
That's the one thing that people might miss in that video is that once you cleaned it, the look on your face, you're like, I got it.
Yeah.
I got
it. I knew. I was like, I just need to be able to stand this darn thing up, and I'm gonna front squat it.
I love it. That's the passion. That's that's what you're bringing to the team, and that's believe it or not, that is almost as important as the execution that you have on the grid, because there are going to be highs for sure, but there's going to be lows, and there's going to be times where you fail. There's going to be faults. There's going to be losses. You're not going to hit lifts. All of these technical things are going to happen, and it's how you respond to that. And when you got somebody like you that's pumping everybody up, and you're constantly like, hey, that's all right, we got this, that matters.
Absolutely.
For this next season, obviously being your first seasons in this sport, Nate, what is your personal goal? What are you hoping to accomplish after this first season?
Rookie of the year. I'm going for that.
Calling his shots.
That's what I want.
I mean, hey, if you're not gonna go out hard, you might as well not even go at all.
Yeah, I'm sending it.
What about you, Haley? Rookie of the year, body weight specialist of the year. What are we doing here?
I'd be honored to receive any of those titles, but I think is just my biggest goal of the year. I think everyone would always say winning, but I think it's making the Breakers exactly what we know with what the team can be. Like you said, this past year, I think there were some struggles that not everybody may have seen. That one of my first questions to Matt was what do you plan on doing differently this year? Because I was I see there wasn't a good track record, but the potential that this team has is so much, but it's not worth anything if it's just potential. So really tapping into that and becoming a team that people are gonna be like, oh crap, we play the breakers this week.
Yep. It's, there's a lot of, with the teams, like there's a lot of room for growth, but, as it grows, like you're right. Like it's really so hard to win. And, one season isn't going to dictate the next. And
Right.
if you win one season, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to keep it rolling, because the league, Mather, does a good job of looking at strengths and weaknesses from, the match format standpoint. And he's like, I want to push these guys. If we're a professional sport and we're professional athletes, I need to push them. I need to come up with new, maybe not necessarily new like movements, but like new formats for the movements to push people, to excel, to, maybe have you fail almost and see, okay, well, if it didn't go well in the first match of the season, I'm going to give the same format to them in the last match of the regular season. And we're going to see how this goes, or in the playoffs. And, it's a great league, and it's, just, I love everything about it. It's very unique in and of itself. But last question before I let you guys get out of here. All right. Haley, what is the expectation for the team? When you talk to Matt and you couple what Matt's saying and you couple like what your personal goal is, and you go, all right, we combine all that together. What do we truly expect from this team? Is it as simple as just being better than we were last year, or is it really like we need to be in a position to win a championship?
Yeah. So I think like that comes in stages, we need to win our practices. We mentally need to be here. We physically need to be here. We need to win our matches. So every single match, we need to show up and give it everything we got. After winning the matches, we need to win a playoff, give that everything we got. And then hopefully and ideally wind up in the championship. So kind of taking things step by step, focusing on the task that we have at hand, and using that potential that we have to be the badass team that we know we can be.
Nobody has won a championship in the first week of the season. So,
right.
I mean, you pretty much like that is. I can't think of a better way that question has been answered by anybody.
Didn't mean to stump you.
It's true though. Like,
yeah.
Nate, I'll get your perspective, but to me, it's like, yeah, like we need to focus on the thing that's in front of us right now.
Right.
We need to win that. And that way, when we win that, we'll move on to the next thing. When I was coaching baseball, in college, you're a coach, you have players, and they're fully capable of being very good. The thing that I tried to harp on my guys was always, I want to make sure that we are taking care of the little things. Absolutely. We need to be masters of the little things, because I felt as though like the big ticket items were just a combination of little things. So if all your little things are mastered, then there will be no big issues.
Yeah.
They'll take care of themselves. And, Nate, for you, when you look at, the same thing, when you look at the players that are coming back, the new players like Haley, what Matt has said to you, and just the trajectory of the team and what you're bringing, what do you see as being the expectation for the team?
I think team chemistry is a big thing. I know there's a lot of rookies and we don't really know each other yet, but it's the thing about leaving the ego at the door. Like, there can't be a bunch of individuals making a team. It has to be a team effort together. I want the best for you just like you want the best for me, and it can't be just a bunch of egomaniacs trying to just do their own thing. We have to work together as a team. And like you said, hyper focusing on the set goal at hand. We can't think about 5 matches from now. We can't think about playoffs right now when we haven't even had our first practice yet. We got to make sure our ducks are in a row at our first practice, and then, move on from there.
Yeah, it's a crazy dynamic when you're all together, like face to face in person for the first time, because you truly then, get to see who people are. And it may not necessarily happen right away. It's that first set of adversity that hits any particular person is how do they handle that? And having the right mix of people with no egos that are just, I'm gonna be team first. Whatever the team needs me to do, if that means I'm running one race, if that means I'm running 0 races, or I'm running every single fucking race, like I'm gonna be the
Yep.
best at anything they ask me to do. And I think, when I talk to the people that are coming back from the breakers, and this is one of the big things I'm going to ask Matt on Thursday is that, you know, what are the egos saying? What do you see? Like, is this going to be an issue, or is this something that you have really went out and signed the right players? And I can't think of a more toxic way to just jeopardize your season than to have a lot of egos just driving in all different directions. So you're right. Having that cohesive chemistry is going to be huge as far as, in regards to how much success you have this season.
For sure.
But I'm looking forward to it. The Breakers are on the come up, baby. They are getting the right people. Everybody that I've talked to has been so nice and so eager and ready to not just get after it, but to learn the sport, learn their role, learn what they're doing, and just be very selfless when it comes to, the team. At the end of the day, there's a lot of individual components that make up the sport, but it comes down to the team executing things as a whole and communicating. So look forward to seeing what you guys bring. I will give you the opportunity. Nate, I'll start with you. Anything you want to plug or promote? War Eagle?
Yeah, War Eagle.
War damn Eagle.
That's about it, to be honest. I can't think of anything right now, but just look out for the Breakers. We're coming. That's all I got to say.
Haley, what you got?
Yeah. Well, I encourage everyone to try to make sourdough bread. That's a big thing. Feel free to reach out if you want any tips. But no, just want to say thank you for having us on. Super excited for the season and super excited to be a part of Grid and eager to see how we help it grow.
Absolutely. I appreciate y'all taking time out. As always, have a great off season, successful, stay injury free. Nate, heal up that ankle, bro. Don't be out there trying to cross folks over. It's gotta be focused.
It's tough. I'm trying my hardest.
I need you in that fourth quadrant. I need you on those ladders, hitting all your weights, not just 1, 2, and 3. We need 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of them. But with that, this has been the In Off the Bench podcast, Grid and Grind show. Next week, or actually tomorrow, no, Thursday, we got Matt Evans, Matt Hornaday, and they're going to talk to us about the direction of this team after what, last year wasn't how it was supposed to go, but 2025 is a new season. So be on the lookout for that. I appreciate Haley Booker, Nate Cobb for joining me today. If you like hearing their story, or you just like hearing us average Joes talk X's and O's, please share the podcast on Facebook, retweet us on X, listen and subscribe wherever you stream your podcast. Head over to YouTube. Do 3 things: like, subscribe, notifications. Notifications is a big one because every time content is uploaded, which will be here shortly, you'll be the first to know, and then you can check out it all. There's interviews of college baseball, college gymnastics, a ton of Grid League stuff. You name it, it's there. Go find it. I'm telling you, it's a library full of stuff. So we'll see everybody on Thursday. As always, remember, strong body, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. We're out.